there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So earlier today I did the third Carina challenge that was out of this world one, hashtag dimensional beings, and this one was actually significantly more annoying and also harder than the previous ones. Now I did definitely waste too many revives because, you know, I made some silly mistakes, and I was also testing and experimenting with some things, but let's go over my run, my team, my matchups, how they do, so on and so forth. So against Odin, Kushala is who worked great for me. Should have been a solo, but you know, I just went in, did about 80 or 90% of his health on my first try, and I figured I'm just going to revive and get through it. The trick of this lane in general is that every time defender uses a special attack, your controls get inversed by 5 seconds, and you know that immediately adds complexity to the entire lane. And then obviously Odin takes no damage unless he has 6 buffs active, but there are a few tips and tricks that you can kind of use. One of them being is eat a heavy attack against Odin on purpose, and when he has 2 of his Odin Force charges, he's going to give himself 5 energize buffs that, you know, immediately is going to let you do damage. But in general, Kushala puts buffs on opponent herself, so she's crazy good for this, and it should be a fairly easy solo with any 7-star rank 2-3 Kushala, potentially even a 6-star rank 5 ascended one as well. So yeah, this should have been a solo. It wasn't. It was one revive, but it was a good fight. And this fight, just basically a standard Chao's fight. Here she does have her power gain mechanics where she plays placebos on you and all that other stuff, but in general you just do this fight as normal with Chavez, and I don't think I ever let her use a level 2, and that was about it. So you do inverse her power gain, spam as many heavy attacks as you can, and drop your level 2s. That's it. It's longer than the Odin Kushala one, but it's definitely still doable. And it wasn't too bad. It was one revive as well here for Chavez versus Black Widow Clairvoyant. So the start of this run was great. Now the first really annoying fight is this Shang-Chi, because he has this super annoying node that sets a lot of conditions where you do need to trigger Wushu strikes for Shang-Chi, because whenever he activates like his special attacks and he doesn't have Wushu strikes readied, then you know, his charges, then you take damage. So it's quite tricky to explain, but the gist of this is that you periodically want to do like medium combos with most champions to put slow on yourself and push him to 2 bars of power. That's typically the gist. Difficulty level kind of increases as you go lower, because once he goes below 70%, if you can't do a repeat combos either. So you typically will want to avoid doing a medium combo finishers, and will have to dance with that one charge or find another, you know, either cleanse or unblockable that you're willing to deal with. And then in the third part, I actually ended up using Fam, who was phenomenal because you can play him without finishing your combos, and just don't let him use special attacks and you're kind of good. So the final phase, Future Ant-Man, was crazy good. For the rest of it, I used CGR and Kushala mainly. But yeah, Fam is great for the last bit of Shang-Chi. Then against Squirrel Girl, again, I primarily used Fam because here the conditions are quite tricky. You can use Kushala as well as CGR if you time everything precisely. So you can, you know, drop Team Revive here as well, which is what I did. But at large, for most parts, Fam is kind of the best one here, because in general, like if you're willing to heal your Fam up and boost him up, you can play in a matter where opponent hardly ever gets to use a special attack, or very rarely, which means you have to deal with reverse control significantly less. Also, there is no willpower in this fight, but every time Squirrel Girl places a bleed on Fam, it expires quickly and you do get some regen back, so that's quite nice. And the entire gist here is that you cannot heavy Squirrel Girl while she is stunned. You can heavy her if she, you know, by countering her heavy attack and stuff like that, or through Relic. And then you need to knock her down precisely when TP gets applied to you, or you will get like a lot of ruptures placed on you. But yeah, CGR can do this fight, Kushala also, but Fam overall did the best for me. It's a bit slow and steady thing. Against Silver Centurion, definitely the easiest option here was Fam. He does have this like very annoying node where he gets his lock on basically, you know, fills it up quicker and can pause it. And when he's locked on, his special attacks cost 100% less power. And without power control, this fight is ridiculously hard. So Future Ant-Man was kind of goated for this entire run alongside Kushala and Chavez. But for this fight, I definitely much preferred Future Ant-Man. Again, not the fastest fight. You still end up using some revives, but not too bad. Now, this fight is an absolute, utter bullshit nightmare. I hated this fight. And here, the best option effectively was to Chavez cheese this guy. Because you do not want to take any hits and blocks because you always have the withers active. You don't actually really want Dex either to remove that wither. And then for most part, with Chavez, you just want him to gain his power gain passives and then exclusively spam heavy attacks. It was literally about half an hour of spamming heavy attacks because obviously Spider-Man 2099 with his massive resistances is a very big problem. I have heard that somebody is also using Gallon for this, but it's only viable if you're very good with the reverse controls. Otherwise, you're going to use a lot of revives. You can get this fight done in like 5-6 revives with America Chavez just spamming heavy attack. Once you kind of set yourself up, it's quite easy. You exclusively throw heavy attacks. You don't use other special attacks. You do weave in a relic here and there. And that's it. You just spam your heavy attacks. It's very long. It's very tedious, like half an hour. And after this fight, honestly, like, because by the half point of this fight, I also started dropping some very silly deaths setting up. And it was just, realistically, I would have taken a break. If I hadn't been streaming, I would have taken a break and probably saved myself like some 7-8 revives. Because I was like half falling asleep and I was not paying attention anymore because it was just so awful and tedious. But once eventually you do finish Spider-Man 2099, it is time for Sunspot. And Sunspot's also quite tricky. Basically, Sunspot's immune to all shock effects, so you cannot get rid of his solar flare forms. And whenever he runs out of solar flare charges, he starts placing Nova Flames on you that act as incinerates, thus drastically increasing your block damage, and also place Power Stings on you when you basically just kind of have no other option but to wait it all out. The CGR did the best here, but again, I was already like fairly exhausted and so done and over with this that I definitely used like 4 unnecessary revives in this fight where I just immediately, you know, screwed up as soon as I set myself up. And yeah, this is also a fairly finicky fight. CGR, I would say, is probably the best option to bring in for this one. And that was the run. Those are the 7 fights. Out of all the 3 challenges that I have done so far, that would be the gods, the mutants, and this one. Out of this all, this is definitely harder. It's definitely more annoying. And perhaps most importantly, it's not necessarily about the revives, even though, again, I will emphasize that I definitely used about 10 revives just because at the end of this thing, I was so done because this was not enjoyable. I think up until Spider-Man 2099, yeah. You know, Squirrel Girl and Centurion fights, you know, are tricky, but definitely not too bad and fine, I would say. But then when you get Spider-Man 2099, it just crushes your soul and spirit. And these are exactly the type of fights that I kind of hate in challenges like this. Because there's no even half decent option that you can bring. Unless you're playing like an absolute god. But even with like the better options, it still takes a lot of time. It still takes, you know, resources. And it just feels quite crappy. So out of all of the challenges so far, this is by far the more tricky and least favorite one of mine. Not because it was harder, just because it was tedious and long. I had to do this one for about an hour longer. It was 3-hour stream, 3-hour run, opposed to 2-hour runs for both others. And yeah, did not like this one at all. I don't think it was as bad as Tiger and Mojo in the series previous Korean challenges, but I was feeling fairly similar by the time I was fighting Sunspot. I just wanted to get it done and out and over with. Right, so my run exactly in the breakdowns. Here we go. So Odin, Kushala 1 revive, Black Widow Clairvoyant, Chavez 1 revive, Shang-Chi, Kushala Fam mainly. I think you can use CGR for this as well. That was 5-6 revives in total as I was learning the fight, because previously I was also, you know, just blitzing through it with Aegon. Squirrel Girl was Fam mainly, but I used the team revive. Thus I also used like CGR and Kushala, plus, you know, singles for Fam. Silver Centurion, I think it was like 4 revives. I might over-exaggerate, there might be a few less, but, you know, it definitely was some revives there too. Chavez 6-7, out of whom I definitely wasted like 3. Because yeah, it was just awful long and I kind of fell asleep. And then Sunspot CGR mainly, you know, you can definitely do it in like 2 revives, I'd say probably, or 3, but 7 was way excessive. So this was also, I believe, you know, just under 30 revive run, which is more than the other 2. It was an hour longer one, and it's definitely well more annoying. So let's take a look at the dimensional beings in the game and check out what other options there are. And spoiler alert here, you know, we do not have too many dimensional beings that would be viable for content like this. The Ghost Rider in my team was only for synergies really, but I might have just preferred to bring in Spot instead, and you know, for when I use team revives, just, you know, to have somebody that I can do some amount of damage with as well in those fights. But yeah, so America Chavez, Kushala, Ghost Rider, and Fam are the 4 kind of like must-have champions for this, I would say. Kushala definitely for the Odin fight, and you know, a few others along the way. America Chavez, Black Widow, Clairvoyant, and Spider-Man 2099 cheese mainly. Fam was great to finish off Shang-Chi. Fam was great also for Squirrel Girl and Silver Centurion. And then Cosmic Ghost Rider was great here and there for stretches also. And the 5th spot was again quite legitimately just kind of like synergy, because I don't think we're going to get too much out of Purgatory, even if you do have her ranked up. I don't think Rintra is great Abyss champion, neither is Hood or Morningstar or Dormammu. Magic obviously does not exist. Magic would be great for Silver Centurion, but it doesn't exist in any meaningful rarity. So yeah, that's pretty much the team that you kind of have to go in with, at the very least the 4 core champions. But yeah, that was my run. That was my experience. Now I need to go run some errands. Then we're gonna have the Autumn of Agony fight, and then I need to plow on with the remainder of the challenges. 2 more that we can do. The one with Carina Challengers and the one that is full run with the hashtag 10-year anniversary. So I'll see you guys soon. Do not miss them. Bye-bye. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next